But here's one thing to note. Against Florida, he had 2 deep balls that I think traveled like 50, 60 yards in the air that were inches away from being a catch and touchdown. If he can complete those like Hendon Hooker did in 2022, Alabama, they're in trouble. Remember, Alabama has a young secondary. I think Nico and Tennessee may be able to burn him a couple times. You know what time it is. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the 3rd Saturday in October. You know what that means? Tennessee and Alabama, they play a football game, and this is a pretty big football game in the Southeast. As an individual who grew up, this is no joke by the way, in a city that is located in both Alabama and Tennessee, yeah, you could say I understand the magnitude of this game. This is more than a game. It's a lifestyle. This is about bragging rights. This is about being able to go to work on Monday and talk about, oh yeah, my team beat yours. This is about being able to show up to the next family function and bragging about, yeah, my team won. It goes on being said, this is a huge game. Alabama fans, they hate the color orange. And Tennessee fans, well, they just hate anything associated with Alabama. You hear the phrase love-hate relationship? Not in this one. This is a hate-hate relationship. And if all that wasn't enough for you, both teams are currently ranked inside the top 11 and fighting for a playoff spot. And you can make a legit argument and say, this is an elimination game. The winner of this game has a really good shot of making the playoff. The loser is more than likely out of it. With all that great stuff being said, you would think this is an extremely competitive rival matchup. However, in recent history, it hasn't been. From 2007 all the way up into 2021, Alabama won 15, count them, 15 straight. And out of the last 17 matchups, Alabama has won 16. And some people do make the argument and claim of, oh, well, it's not a rivalry if, one team's winning all the games, and hey, I agree. But you do got to take into account from 2007 up until 2021, Alabama had not one of the greatest head coaches of all time. That right there alone can definitely swing the pendulum in one team's favor. Weirdly enough, both Alabama and Tennessee are in a very similar situation. A few weeks ago, it looked like it was almost certain this was going to be a top 5 matchup, and College Game Day was going to be decided between Georgia, Texas, and Alabama, Tennessee. Tennessee was clicking on all cylinders. Alabama's coming off of the big win over Georgia. Like I said, it looked like a top 5 matchup with 2 outstanding teams. But, and I have a big but, just like Lee Corso says, nah, so fast, my friend. Fast forward time to our current date and time, Alabama has looked the worst they've looked in the past 15, 16, 17 years, and Tennessee can't score. Both of these teams are extremely fortunate, if you gotta ask me, to be 5-1. Alabama, as we all saw, they had the embarrassing loss to Vanderbilt, and they really, and I mean really, struggled last week against South Kakalaki. They almost lost that one. On the flip side for Tennessee, lost to Arkansas, similar to Alabama, actually in the same week. In the end, they got extremely fortunate to beat Florida. I still think Tennessee loses that game if Florida's starting quarterback Graham Mertz doesn't get hurt, but really a different conversation for a different day. The point is, both of these teams lost 2 weeks ago, and then last week, they barely escaped at home with a win. And I hate predicting games like this for the fact that we don't know what to expect. And for everything I just said, that's what makes this game so hard to predict. First 4 games, Alabama and Tennessee look great. The last 2, they don't even look like a top 75 team. And it's really funny because Alabama has one of the best offenses in the nation. They can score a bunch of points, but their defense is just straight up awful. They're booty cheeks. On the flip side for Tennessee, they have one of the worst offenses in the SEC, but their defense is awesome. Before we go any farther, let me pull up the line for this game. I would assume Alabama's favorite, even though it isn't Neyland. Let me pull it up. Hold on. Okay, yeah, Alabama's favored by 3 points. That seems about right to me, and if you're a Tennessee fan, I don't know how you would disagree with that, especially with the way y'all have looked in the past couple of weeks. I already know it's some of you run into the comments to say, well, Matt, hold your horses, partner. Have you seen Alabama the past couple of weeks? And yes, I have. Here's the difference right now at Alabama and Tennessee. Although Alabama has also been on the struggle bus right next to Tennessee, they've looked a little bit better than Tennessee. Not much, but a little bit. So that right there isn't why I think. It's why Alabama is a 3-point favorite. Moving along here, though, there's not too much to say about Alabama because we know who they are. You shouldn't be confused. It's not a fluke that they struggled in the second half with Georgia. They struggled the entire game with Vandy, and they also struggled the entire game with South Kakalaki. Ladies and gentlemen, that is 10 straight quarters of Alabama struggling. It's not an outlier. It's who they are. Alabama's going to play in a lot of close games this year. Whether you like it or not, just get used to it. It's the new Bama. This isn't the early 2010s Alabama defense. They're average at best right now. With that being said, I will give the Bama defense the benefit of the doubt. I have been extremely harsh on them, but there's a new defensive coordinator and there's a lot of young guys in that secondary. And sometimes in life, although we don't like it at first, you got to take 2 steps back to go 3 steps forward. That's where the Alabama defense is currently at. They're still trying to find themselves. As far as it goes for Jalen Milroe on the offense, one of the best offenses in the nation, they're going to put up points. You can only hope to contain them. You're not going to stop them. Did Jalen Milroe on the offense struggle last week? Absolutely, but at the end of the day, still put up 27 points. I know we're used to seeing Alabama score 40 points a game, but let's not act like 27 in an SEC game is bad by any stretch of imagination. The only thing that held Alabama back is Jalen Milroe had not one but 2 interceptions and a safety. That's not normal of him the past couple of years. He's played really great. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive head coach, offensive mind, so we really shouldn't even be talking about the Alabama offense. You know what to expect. And I just talked about the defense, so with that being said, let's get into Tennessee. And this is where things get really interesting. Tennessee, similar to the Alabama offense, there's not too much to say. I've already talked about it plenty enough this year. Love me some James Pierce Jr., all the other edge rushers, they're amazing. They're phenomenal. Tennessee has a lot of players in that front 7 that are going to make a lot of money in the NFL. The secondary for Tennessee is a wild card for me because I don't feel like they've been tested like Alabama and Ryan Williams is going to test them in this up-and-coming matchup. I don't think their secondary is atrocious. It's more so if it's kind of like Ohio State heading into the Oregon game. I don't know how good they are because they ain't played anybody. Not to say that Tennessee ain't played anybody. I respect Florida. I think they're way better than what people give them credit for, and same thing for Arkansas, but I haven't seen them be tested. NC State, come on, man. Those are chumps. Oklahoma for sure didn't test the secondary. Florida, their quarterback got hurt. And Arkansas, well, Arkansas barely even scored points in that game. That's going to be one thing to pay attention to. Let's see how the secondary can hold up. Unfortunately for Bama fans, I have some bad news. You have not been running the ball well this year, and I don't expect that to change against Tennessee this weekend. Tennessee has a really good rushing defense. Alabama doesn't run the ball well. You don't got to be rocket scientists to put 2 and 2 together here. Not a recipe for success. And Kalen DeBoer himself has even been talking about, yeah, we got to run the ball more, but he just hasn't. And to me, actions speak louder than words. He's been saying the past couple weeks, we're going to run the ball more, and we need to run the ball more, and he hasn't. I tell you right now, I'd be shocked if Alabama has over 150 rushing yards. And that's even counting Milroe. And let's not even talk about this. Jalen Milroe is pretty much Alabama's #1 running back. And it's not to disrespect his passing ability. He's one of the greatest passers in the nation currently, but they run Milroe more than the actual running backs. I'd be really shocked if Alabama has a lot of run success, and it goes back to this. They don't even try to establish a run. I don't see them trying it against Tennessee. I think they're going to be slinging that thing and have a lot of design quarterback runs for Jalen Milroe, power left, power right, stuff like that, quarterback draws. Here's the interesting thing about that. As athletic as James Pierce Jr. is, he's not Jalen Milroe. What I mean by that? You're not going to stop him. James Pierce Jr., one-on-one with Milroe, I'm taking Milroe every single day of the week. The thing that makes Milroe so hard to stop is if the play breaks down and he doesn't hit Ryan Williams for a 60-yard touchdown and you got a quarterback spy on him, that still might not be enough. He's going to get around him. And it goes back to this. I think Tennessee will stop the running backs, but will you stop Jalen Milroe when he runs? That's the question. I don't think they will. I am looking forward to see how that Tennessee defense holds up to the Alabama high-powered offense. We've talked about the Alabama offense, defense, and now the Tennessee defense. Let's talk about Tennessee's offense. Whew, man, oh man. Where do you even start? Outside of Dylan Sampson, one of the greatest running backs in the SEC currently, this Tennessee offense has been a mega disappointment. They look so abysmal against Arkansas and Florida. For not just the first half, but the entire game, it had me shaking my head. I'm like, dude, what is going on? This is not the Bobby Hill scheme and offense I was watching the past couple of years, even with Milton in there. I know Milton had his ups and downs, but they still had a decent season last year, and they still scored points at times. But to be shut out at home against Florida, guys, Florida has one of the worst defenses in the country. To go on top of that, Arkansas, I mean, they're nothing special, and they shut you out back-to-back weeks? Really stunning to see that, and it falls back to this. Nico Iamaleava. I feel like I say this every single time I talk about him. I love the kid. I think he's going to be great in a couple of years, but right now, he is one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC. You heard me correctly. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC, and that Tennessee offense is also one of the worst in the SEC, if not the worst. It comes down to this, and I've seen people pointing the finger at Josh Heupel. It's not Heupel's fault, buddy. It comes down to execution. Heupel's been running the same offensive scheme the past couple of years. At the very end of the day, you can call the greatest play in the world, but guess what? If your players don't execute it, doesn't amount to a hill of beans. What has happened with Nico in these past couple of weeks compared to the first few weeks? as he's playing SEC competition and SEC defenses. He's not used to the speed, and he is having an extremely hard time trying to read these defenses. And you can have a great arm like he does. You can have great accuracy like he does. But if you can't read the defense, you're in a world of trouble. Fortunately enough for old Nico, Alabama's defense has been bad the past couple of weeks. Maybe he'll be able to read that defense, but I'm going to remind some of you on that first half against Georgia, Kane Womack was disguising the coverage is great, and that's why Carson Beck had, what he wound up having, 3 interceptions, 4 turnovers in total, and also had a safety, which is pretty much the equivalent of a turnover. I expect Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator for Alabama, to give Nico some confusing looks. But here's one thing to note. Against Florida, he had 2 deep balls that I think traveled like 50, 60 yards in the air that were inches away from being a catch and touchdown. If he can complete those like Hendon Hooker did in 2022, Alabama, they're in trouble. Remember, Alabama has a young secondary. I think Nico and Tennessee may be able to burn them a couple times. But here's the thing. When your guys burn them, Nico has to complete it because you're only going to burn them maybe 3 to 4 times a game. Cornerbacks in college football get burnt about roughly 5 times per game. Either A, the quarterback doesn't see him, B, he gets sacked, or C, it's just not a good throw. And guess what? Alabama is going to play man-to-man. They're going to mix up some zone, but for the most part, yeah, they're going to play man-to-man. So if you can complete a couple of them deep balls, maybe get a couple touchdowns off of them, that's a recipe for success for Nico. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I really have no idea because I can't tell you if Nico's going to throw a good pass on the 27th offensive play of the game. All I can do is watch film and tell you, hey, against Florida, he had a couple of those passes and he missed them, and you can do what you want with that information. At this point in time, it's me gambling, trying to predict whether or not he's going to complete those passes. I tell you this much. He'll have opportunities. Whether he converts, that's up to him. I know some people are going to bring this up. This game is in Neyland, Tennessee, and I'm about to give you one of the most unpopular opinions and hot takes of all time. I don't even know how to ease into this, so I'm just going to come out and say it. Home field advantage doesn't matter to me. As a former athlete myself, you can call me crazy, but I actually enjoyed playing on the road more than I did at home. I just thought it was a way cooler environment. I enjoyed people booing me, talking trash. I just loved that. I ate it up. But let me explain this a little more as to why home field advantage doesn't matter. It's going to be allowed there 100%, but let's just say you're the quarterback. When you snap that ball, you are in a flow state. If you don't know what a flow state is, it means you're in the zone. You can't even hear the opposing fans. You can't hear how loud it is. Nothing. You're just, like I said, in the zone. And it doesn't matter how loud Timothy is in the 5th row of Neyland Stadium. You have zero outcome and effect on that play. You can scream as loud as you want. It's not going to do anything. Those players are so locked in. They're so focused. It doesn't matter at all. Now, with that being said, I know some people are going to say, come on, Matt. You didn't play in Neyland Stadium. You didn't play in some SEC school. Hey, I get that. That's a fair argument, but here's my rebuttal. I remember times playing in basketball gyms, and it got so loud, and we practiced this because we knew it was going to be loud. We're talking about sold-out gyms, right? That we couldn't even call out plays. We'd have to use hand signs. Was it a little bit harder to communicate? Yeah, but you practice it. Same thing here at Alabama. They are practicing for this noise. They expect it, so they have signals to use. And if Alabama does get a false start because of miscommunication, to me, that ain't on the fans. That's on the players. Home field advantage is the most overrated thing talked about in sports. I know that's going to be super controversial in the comment section, but I can't be the only one who feels that way. And if you ever played sports, you know what I'm talking about. Getting a little sidetracked here with the home field advantage rant, but I did want to talk about it a little bit because I knew some people were going to bring it up. I expect this game to be close. And I also expect Alabama to make mistakes, and I expect Tennessee to make mistakes. But what has persuaded me in this game is this quote right here. I can't remember where I heard this. I think I heard it off a movie. I think Uncle Drew, which is Kyrie Irving, said this, or I don't know. I saw it somewhere. The name of the game is to get buckets. What does that mean? That's really a basketball analogy, but applying it to football, the name of the game is to score points. You can have the greatest defense in the world, Tennessee, but if you put up a 0 burger in the first half, probably not going to be in good shape against old Alabama. And whenever there's a close game like this, y'all know this about me, I got to roll with the team with the better quarterback. Jalen Milroe is head and shoulders above Nico Iamaleava. Not to say that Nico can't go out here and play like Vanderbilt's quarterback. He may do that, but I'm not predicting that. I got the Tide rolling in this one, 34 to Tennessee's 27. I like that score, and 34 is a lot of points against that Tennessee defense, but I think Kalen DeBoer, Milroe, they'll get the job done. Get your stogies ready, because that's what the winner does after this game. For those of you who don't know, I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.